I'm here today at the Arava Institute for Environmental Studies, which is located in the southern Negev desert of Israel, about 40 kilometers north of the town of Eilat, which is right at the border with Jordan. And there is in fact a Yitzhak Rabin border crossing going to Jordan as well there, where you have every day a few hundred Jordanians crossing into Israel to come and work as laborers. The Arava Institute is supposed to be a model of environmental cooperation, and they have several Palestinian students as well, even though now the Israeli government has barred Palestinian students from being able to attend educational institutions in Israel since the withdrawal from Gaza in 2006. So it is a very difficult situation, but the Arava Institute is trying its best to use the environment as a peace-building strategy. The Institute works with the kibbutz here to harvest dates for commercial enterprises, and there are about 5,000 date trees on the premises, and much of those dates are exported. The efforts here are clearly sincere, but it remains to be seen what can be achieved both in the short and the long term.
Here's actually the old Arava road. When I was first here in 1966 as an 8-year-old, we took this road. My father was an exchange professor to Germany, so we came here before the Six-Day War when things were very, very different. And you see this gully here. This is because you'll sometimes get really massive winter floods. In the first couple of years the kibbutz was in existence, the date trees got wiped out. So they built this here to have the flooding go, get stuck there, if you will. And like I said, these are some of the highest yielding date trees in the world because they've really learned how to tweak it in terms of when to pollinate, how much to water it, how to prune it, and they've really gotten it down to a science, no pun intended. So these are incredibly fruitful date trees. Off to the left here with lots of trees and bushes with medicinal quality that all grow in high salinity, low water. There's the neem that is very good for teeth. There's the argani that produces a nut that actually lowers cholesterol. There's the marula, which we'll see later on, that has the highest concentration of vitamin C of any fruit in the world. Over here, she was growing something called pitaya, which is actually a South American fruit, and it worked for a couple of years, and they were going to try to do it commercially, but it just didn't work out enough, so they're actually beginning to dismantle all of the pitaya. And this is my bike ride every morning. This is what I do at 6:30 in the morning as the sun's coming over the mountains of Jordan. Actually, we in the Bible we read that Abraham actually planted these, not these particular, but this species. And you can see the needles that fall on the ground. So what happens is they're able to absorb the salt water. The needles then die, and they fall on the ground, and they create a blanket, so nothing else can really grow around in the natural. These are man planted. So they're very, very good actually for the desert because you don't have to fight as much for the water around you by all of these needles falling.
The natural mulch.
Yep, exactly. From the Pticha here, and then just
Okay, alright.
So we're now at the border with Israel and Jordan, and you'll note that the border doesn't follow this road here, but it swings around the fields of the kibbutz, and then it goes towards Lotam, the kibbutz there, and it goes around that. And the reason for that is that when the different kibbutzim were founded here, some of the better soil back then was on the Jordanian side after the armistice line from the War of Independence, and so the Israelis would come and move the fence into Jordan, if you will. When it came time for the peace treaty between Israel and Jordan, King Hussein of blessed memory said, "Listen, you have your fields there, so where you went into us, we'll come into you." So all along the border here, it's not a straight line, but it weaves in and out as a model of compromise, which is very, very different than, and it really is symbolic of the warmer relations between Israel and Jordan, which is very different than what we find with Egypt, unfortunately. Because you may remember that when the peace treaty was signed with Egypt, even before this one, the Israelis have a hotel in Taba, which was now it's across the border, and the Israelis said it was inside then these lines that were drawn after World War I, and the Egyptians took Israel to court. Israel lost, and we were talking here about 100 meters. But Egypt wanted every millimeter, every sand grain back. And it really symbolizes the very, very different peace treaties that we have. And for example, Jordanians have been a major part of the Arava Institute from the very, very beginning. We have, in terms of students coming here, and in terms of the research that we do now between Israeli and Jordanian institutions. With Egypt, we had students the first year, and that's been it. And so I love coming to this spot because it's really a model of the real give and take and what it really means to be neighbors in this part of the world. The center of the ice of the world. And so the Israeli government wants to turn the Arava Valley into the Silicon Valley of renewable energy. And so, for example, at the Institute, we have the Center for Renewable Energy and Energy Conservation run by Dr. Tariq Abu Hamad, who's doing some of the research that will be helping the Arava Power Company here. But part of the goal is to really take solar photovoltaics out of the lab and really mainstream it in the way that we really need to be doing that now. And so in the next couple of months, there'll be the first experimental field, which will just be south of the kibbutz, 40 dunam. Then we're going to build one 80 dunam here and just go further and further and further.
Okay, so this is the southernmost part of the Dead Sea. These are the evaporation ponds that are basically used for extracting potash, which is used for agricultural chemicals and so on. That's the site of the Dead Sea, which actually used to be the largest industry in Israel. Now I think it's like the fourth largest in terms of exports. Exporting mostly potash and potash-related products, bromides, magnesium, those kinds of things. And that, in the distance, sort of that green, that's the one of the largest agricultural areas in Jordan, called the Al Safi area.
Okay.
They grow a lot of bananas there. There's some pretty good groundwater in that sense. And what I was talking about, the Red Sea, Dead Sea project, somewhere close to the mountains there would be the site of if it was ever built, would be the desalination facility.
Okay.
And then there'd be a pipe that would cross into Israel, somewhere here, to bring fresh water to the Israeli side.
Wow.